Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go.
Hello and welcome to today's DNS session. We are going to have a discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 3rd January 2022. We shall pick up articles important for civil service examination and try and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. There is an article on page number 1 in today's newspaper, Rupees 8 lakh income reasonable cap for EWS quota, Centre tells Supreme Court. The central government has told the Supreme Court in an affidavit that it has decided to accept the recommendation made by an expert committee to retain the limit of rupees 8 lakh gross annual income for economically weaker section reservation. See, Supreme Court previously has expressed doubts regarding reasonableness of the capping of rupees 8 lakh gross annual income for EWS reservation. Following this, Centre has agreed to revisit the same and formed an expert committee. That expert committee has given its final report, and Supreme Court has submitted in an affidavit to the Supreme Court that it is going to accept the recommendation of the expert committee. Before we get into what recommendation the expert committee has given, first of all, let's analyze what is the test of reasonableness based on which Supreme Court raised doubts, and prima facie it asserted that the capping of rupees 8 lakh gross annual income seemed to be arbitrary. See, Article 14 says that state shall not deny any person equality before the law or equal protection of the law within the territory of India. Equality before law, as provided in the Article 14 of our Constitution, provides that no one is above the law of the land. You must have heard the quote, "Be you ever so high, the law is always above you." Rule of law is an inference derived from Article 14. Article 14 aims to establish equality of status and opportunity as embodied in the preamble of our Constitution. However, Article 14 does not mean that all laws must be general in character or that the same law should apply to all persons or that every law must be having universal application. This is basically because all persons are not by nature or by attainment or by circumstance equal in position. Thus, the state can treat different people differently if the circumstances justify the differential treatment. Also, the identical treatment in unequal circumstances would amount to inequality. Thus, there is a necessity of reasonable classification. And this reasonable classification is considered as important for the society to progress. Supreme Court has maintained that Article 14 permits reasonable classification of persons or objects or transactions by the state for the purpose of achieving specific ends that help in the development of society. However, there has been argument from various quarter that the extensive use of reasonable classification as a tool for development by the state and its approval by the Supreme Court has rendered the guarantee of fair and equitable treatment within the scope of Article 14 as illusory. So here comes the role of test of reasonable classification. The test of reasonable classification says that the classification must be based upon intelligible differentia. This intelligible differentia differentiates or distinguishes person or things that are grouped from others that are left out of the group. Meaning the classification must be done in an intelligent manner. The differentiation must be rational. There should be a relation between the differentiations to the object of the classification. There must be some kind of relation between the basis of differentiation to the objects or persons who have been classified into a particular group. Fundamentally, it means that there must be a criteria. That criteria must be reasonable, rational. So classification must be done in an intelligent manner. The concern that Supreme Court has put forward was that for OBC creamy layer reservation, the cutoff gross annual income is 8 lakh, and the same amount was put forward for economically weaker section as well. So 8 lakh for OBC creamy layer and 8 lakh for EWS both. This does not seem reasonable to the Supreme Court. Hence, prima facie, the action of the state was seemingly arbitrary. Let's now look at as to what was the criteria for classification of people into EWS category. As per the notification that Government of India gave in January 2019, a person who is not covered under the scheme of reservation for SCs, STs and OBCs and whose family has a gross annual income below rupees 8 lakh are to be classified as EWS for the benefit of reservation. But there is some exclusion criteria as well. For example, if that family owns 5 acres of agricultural land and above, then they are excluded from EWS criteria. Similarly, a residential plot of 100 square yards and above in municipalities and 200 square yard and above in other areas will be excluded from the criteria. There was a third exclusion criteria of 100 square feet of residential flat anywhere. You must note that family here would include the person, his or her parents. It will also include spouse and children under age of 18 years. You must note that family here would include the person. So income of brothers and sisters will not be taken into account to calculate the ceiling of rupees 8 lakh gross annual income. But income of the person, spouse and parents' income will be counted. And income includes all income: salary, agricultural income, business income, professional income for the financial year prior to the year of application. So there are three things here. First of all, this income of rupees 8 lakh annual gross income. Then there's a criteria of agricultural land, and there's a criteria of residential plot or residential flat. And concerning all these three, there was a sense of arbitrariness. So the expert committee that Center has set up has discussed all these three criteria and made modification to justify the reasonableness of the classification of EWS. The expert committee has defended the criteria of rupees 8 lakh gross annual income. It has reasserted that this should be the eligible criteria for the benefit of EWS reservation. The Supreme Court has prima facie observed that applying the income limit of rupees 8 lakh, this essentially is the income limit for OBC creamy layer. So applying this criteria to economically weaker section was unreasonable because EWS has no basis of social and economic backwardness. But the expert committee has opined that this criteria is reasonable because it appears to be the same for OBC creamy layer and economically weaker section, but they are applied very differently in different contexts. For EWS, as we just have discussed, the criteria relates to one financial year, the financial year just preceding to the year of application. Whereas the income criteria for creamy layer in OBC was applicable to gross annual income of 3 consecutive financial years. So the safety net for OBC creamy layer is higher than EWS. For deciding OBC creamy layer, income from salaries, agricultural income, and traditional artisanal professions was excluded. Whereas in calculating rupees 8 lakh for EWS, all incomes are included, including farming. So rupees 8 lakh for a person falling in EWS criteria would be quite different from a person falling in OBC creamy layer criteria. And hence, it's a reasonable classification. That's the opinion of the expert committee. We have to wait and see what opinion Supreme Court forms on this opinion. The expert committee also gave various logic as to why this rupees 8 lakh criteria is reasonable. First of all, in the definition of income criteria for EWS, agricultural income is included, and the agricultural income does not attract income tax. So there's a practical problem in estimation of income. And considering the income tax reforms, wherein effective income tax on individuals was zero for those with annual income of rupees 5 lakh. But however, taking advantage of various provisions for deductions, savings, insurance, etc., the taxpayer may not need to pay any tax to annual income in the range of rupees 7 to 8 lakh. So taking maximum benefit of tax incentives, individuals earning up to rupees 8 lakh may not pay any income tax. And people not paying income tax must be counted as belonging to weaker section. So for this reason, this number 8 lakh has not been plucked out of thin air. It has not come out of the blue. There is a reason. There's a rationale behind it. The expert committee also has defended the exclusion criteria based on the agricultural land. A family who has 5 acres of land and above shall be excluded from the EWS classification. See, the argument that the expert committee has put forward is that there is paucity of information concerning agricultural income because it is exempted from income tax. Also, there is a lot of variability in the agricultural income depending upon the geographical location, the soil type, the climate, and other factors. So it would practically get very difficult to objectively set a criteria of different amount of lands in different region. We might have to apply supercomputers and quantum mechanics maybe for that. But if we do not have an exclusion criteria, then there will be inclusion error. And if we do not have a reasonable number like 5 acre, then there will be exclusion error. So to minimize the inclusion error and the exclusion error, the expert committee has defended this exclusion criteria of 5 acre of agricultural land. Concerning the residential asset criteria as an exclusion criteria, the committee has recommended for removing this criteria. In the opinion of the committee, it is not an easy task to specify a general residential area threshold for the entire country, because essentially that will require lakhs of candidates every year to get the valuation done of their houses and the plots. Further, the committee also said that if the residential house was used only for dwelling and not for income generation, then that essentially should not be used as an income criteria. So here's a summary of the recommendation of the expert committee given to the central government, and central government has said in the affidavit to the Supreme Court that it's going to accept the recommendation. The family income limit for EWS classification of rupees 8 lakh per annum gross will be continued. The exclusion criteria of 5 acres of agricultural land and above will also be continued, but the residential asset criteria may altogether be removed. The center also has said that these changed criteria will be applicable for the next academic session, and the counseling that was going on that was put on hold will be taken forward with the same criteria as before. Now we'll have to wait and watch what the opinion of Supreme Court comes regarding the reasonableness of these criteria. There is an article on page number 2. High Court allows women to terminate 28-week pregnancy. The court was of the opinion that the petitioner woman is justified in contending that continuing with pregnancy after it was known that the fetus suffers from a rare congenital heart disease, which is a substantial fetal abnormality, will have deleterious impact on the mental health of the mother-to-be. See, before 1971, abortion was criminalized under Section 312 of IPC Act 1860.
After 1971, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971 allowed aborting the pregnancy by a doctor up till 12 weeks, which can be extended till 20 weeks. Till 12 weeks of pregnancy, abortion can be done on advice of a single doctor. After 12 weeks and before 20 weeks, abortion can be done on advice of 2 doctors. Ordinarily, there is no legal way of doing abortion after 20 weeks. However, abortion can be done at any point of time if there is immediate threat to life of the mother. An abortion till 20 weeks is not on the will of mother or family or anyone. Abortion could be done only if continuance of pregnancy poses risk to life of mother or would cause injury to her physical or mental health, or in case of fetal abnormality. Only when these conditions are met, then abortion till now legally can be done till 20 weeks under Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. But as we have read and understood, Delhi High Court has given not to terminate 28-week pregnancy. This can be done on writ petition. To do complete justice, higher judiciary, high courts and Supreme Court can accept cases and allow termination of pregnancy even if that is not permitted by law. However, there has been long-term demand to increase this duration of 20 weeks. Out of all countries that allow termination of pregnancy, 52% allows it beyond 20 weeks on the condition of fetal abnormality. There are 23 countries that allow termination of pregnancy at any point if the mother wish. Also, the condition is such in India that contraceptive use is not highly prevalent. According to National Family Health Survey 4, only 8% of couples in country use modern contraceptive method and only 53% use any method at all. And this has resulted in high rate of abortion. Every year in India, 47 out of 1000 women do abortion. Apart from these, there is one very important medical argument. A number of fetal abnormality is actually detected after 20th week, between 20th and 21st week of pregnancy. And if there is some delay in the scan, the mother will easily cross this crucial duration of 20th and 21st week. And in that case, she will not have a legal recourse to do termination of her pregnancy. Because of these reasons, there has been long-standing demand to increase the legally allowed time period beyond 20 weeks. Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Bill 2020.
The bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha last year and has been recently passed in Rajya Sabha. This bill, which is now an act, among various other things,
seeks to increase the time period that legally a mother can get her pregnancy terminated from 20 weeks to 24 weeks. Previously, on advice of one doctor, mother can get her pregnancy terminated up till 12 weeks. This has been increased now till 20 weeks. Up till 20 weeks, advice of single doctor will do. From 20 to 24 weeks, recommendation of two doctors will be required. There is another very important amendment that the bill seeks to bring in the Act. After 24 weeks, pregnancy can still happen. But for that, recommendation has to come from a medical board, which under this Act, the state governments will form. And this medical board will take up case for certain categories of women. What will be those categories that has not been specified in the bill? Perhaps later, when the central government will lay down the rules for this Act, those categories will be specified. But it is indicative that the categories will include unwanted pregnancy in case of rape or when the mother is severely ill. Presently, ordinarily, there is no recourse for abortion after 20 weeks, even in case of rape. But the original Act does have a provision of termination of pregnancy at any stage of pregnancy if there is threat to the life of mother. And this provision, of course, will stay even after the amendment.
There is an article on page number 7, From Selective to Universal Engagement. This article basically summarizes important shift in the international relation in the geostrategic domain that India has adopted in the preceding year. It also briefs upon the important diplomatic challenge that India has faced. Being true to the title, the article basically highlights how universal engagement has been the fulcrum to move India's diplomatic maneuvering. India has engaged with China through dialogue, through military preparedness, and also through soaring economic relation. India has not disengaged either from government to government or people to people or business to business perspective. And the problem that we have at the border that has been increased recently via the issue of renaming of certain places in Arunachal Pradesh, the author hopes will subside once the next term of President Xi Jinping begins. Because this is not the politically opportune time to show any internal or external weakness on behalf of the president. So the hope is once election time will be over, sanity will prevail. India also has engaged with Taliban. After lots of reluctance, India finally openly has been engaging with the Taliban government. But there are lots of if and buts and conditions applied, and mostly the relation is based on humanitarian activities and to safeguard India's asset in Afghanistan. Recently, Foreign Minister also visited Myanmar at the time when there are internal protests. The Janta government has been very unpopular and democratically elected head of government has been put in jail. But still India has been engaging with Myanmar to not give leeway to China there. India has taken very seriously its presidency in United Nations Security Council. And in a rare event, Prime Minister Modi also has presided over an event under United Nations Security Council. India has worked extensively as chair of UNSC and otherwise in the field of climate change. The article also highlights that India has a strengthened Quad, but India has accepted the formation of AUKUS and Western Quad. India has participated actively in SCO. In SCO meeting, decisions were taken by a subgroup led by China that was not acceptable to India. In spite of this, India has engaged with Russia and China under RIC. So basically, this is the summary of what the article is about. That diplomatic relation of India in 2021 has been characterized by readiness to deal with friends and foes alike. The individual diplomatic incidents and geopolitical strategies mentioned here has been discussed piece by piece in the previous DNS. For example, in the DNS dated 3rd of September, UNSC and its reform has been discussed very elaborately. On 27 December, India-Myanmar relation has been discussed. The Western Quad was discussed on 20th October. India's role in climate change and the Glasgow summit was discussed on 15th of November. AUKUS has been discussed multiple times, and India's engagement with Taliban is one of the most extensively discussed topic in the international relation in the recent months. This is a lead article from page number 6. State schemes can cast a lifeline to this welfare plan. What is this welfare plan? This welfare plan is Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana was launched with one of the aim to reduce maternal mortality ratio. This was launched in 2017 under the background when India accounted for 1/5 of total childbirths, and then, which we know now, had a decline in maternal mortality ratio. Recently, the Office of Registrar General's Sample Registration System has released a special bulletin on maternal mortality. According to this bulletin, maternal mortality ratio has declined to 113. Remember this number for your mains exam. This is the latest data that we have. This maternal mortality ratio of 113 is for the period of 2016 to 2018. The same was 122 in 2015-17 and 130 during 2014-16. Although it has declined considerably, but still is very high. Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana was launched in 2017. It's a cash incentive scheme that provides rupees 5,000 in 3 installments over a period of 1 year. The money goes directly into the bank account or the post office account of pregnant women and lactating mothers for the first living child of the family. So the scheme is only for one child. But there are certain conditions. For example, pregnant women and lactating mothers who are government employed, either in the central government or the state government or any PSUs, or if they are recipient of similar benefits, then they cannot be eligible as beneficiary of Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. Also, in case of miscarriage or stillbirth, the beneficiary will be eligible to claim the remaining installments. For example, if they have claimed 1 installments or 2 installments and miscarriage has happened, then in the next pregnancy, they could claim only 1 if they have claimed 2 installments already. And in case of infant mortality, no claim was given at all. The mother will not be the beneficiary under the scheme for the next pregnancy. Basically, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana aimed at improving health-seeking behavior of women and also to compensate them for the wage loss, particularly in the unorganized sectors. In the GS paper 2 in the governance section, you have in your syllabus welfare schemes for vulnerable section and their performance evaluation. The article has done kind of performance evaluation of Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. First of all, since its inception in January 2017, the scheme has covered 2 crore women roughly, with a total disbursement of around 8,700 crore. If you have to evaluate a scheme, you can evaluate them on these parameters as mentioned here. First of all, you must check if there has been an exclusion or inclusion error. Government of India targeted 51.7 lakh beneficiaries. But as per the Center for Policy Research report, in India, there were 128.7 lakh pregnant women and lactating mothers in 2017-18. So even if with 100% of achieved target, there still would have been exclusion error. This target has remained same for 5 years. So by the end of 5 years, the exclusion error would be of 60%. According to the data published by Ministry of Women and Child Development, enrollment and payouts under the plan has decreased. In 2020-21, more than 50% of registered beneficiaries did not receive all 3 installments, and there were 9% drop in the enrollment under the scheme. The population of pregnant women and lactating mother is definitely not decreasing, but if there is decrease in the enrollment, that means that there is lack of effective implementation of the scheme. You can take budget to the given scheme or initiative also as a parameter for the evaluation of performance. Post-COVID for 2021-22, the entire budget of Ministry of Women and Child Development has been cut by 20%. The allocation to Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana already decreased because it has been clubbed with other schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Mahila Shakti Kendra, gender budgeting, research and training concerning women into one umbrella scheme called as Samarth. The entire budget of the Samarthya scheme was less than what was of Pradhan Mantri Matritva Vandana Yojana alone in the preceding 2 years. Then you can involve other parameters for the evaluation of the scheme in terms of e-governance or use of technology to increase the effectiveness, or use of innovation in general to increase the effectiveness of the scheme. The article highlights the cases from different states. Like from Telangana, they give KCR kit. This KCR kit involves many items like baby oil, soaps, mosquito nets, dresses. These are more tangible and lasting and have high utility. Odisha runs Mamta scheme. It is also a conditional cash transfer of Rs 5,000 as maternity benefit, but for 2 live births. Tamil Nadu runs Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy maternity benefit scheme, and this has resulted in increased coverage and higher maternity benefits. The coverage has increased by 57% in the same period in which Pradhan Mantri Matritva Vandana Yojana has shown to have decreased the coverage by 50%. So given the importance of maternity benefit and maternal health and the health of the newborn, some measures has been suggested in the article to improve the scheme. First of all, the benefits must be extended for second live birth as well. The scheme preceding this scheme, called as Indira Gandhi Matritva Yojana, included 2 live births. Also, the maternal mortality in the second birth is also very high. Further, the chances of maternal mortality or stillbirth in unorganized sector with low institutional delivery is high in the second birth as well. If you look all these in the context of decreasing fertility rate in India, which has already gone below the replacement rate, it is not a bad idea to extend maternity benefit for second live birth as well. The article also has been suggesting that the government must include all live births in maternity benefit coverage for unorganized sector, because their vulnerability to economic shocks and nutritional loss on account of wage loss is very high. The article also suggests to increase the amount of maternity benefit. Presently, the amount was given as 5,000 in 3 installments over the period of 1 year. If you compare this with Maternity Benefit Act of 1961 as amended, it gives maternity leave, the paid leave for 12 weeks, an amount totaling 15,000 rupees. Rupees 5,000 will amount to a salary of 1 month, even if you take the pay of MG Narega. And in the beginning, we saw that one of the aim of Pradhan Mantri Matritva Yojana was to give wage compensation on account of leave from work. In the performance evaluation of the scheme, we saw that registration has been decreasing. So the process of registration and the documentation needed to change the names, etc., must be made easy. You must have heard, child is the father of a man. Children are trustees of prosperity of the nation. They are the next generation leaders, and their health, their mental capability, their cognition depends upon the health of the mother. Now on your screen, you have answer to yesterday's question of the day, and you also have today's question of the day. Please attempt the question, write your answer in the comment section, have some meaningful discussion, and for more practice, you can also attempt the DNS quiz on the eLearn platform. Goodbye, take care.